kind of access.
Right.
I think it's good for the county, the economy.
I signed up.
Okay. I'll give you a chance to speak in a minute, of course. To give some context to the issue, the November 8th meeting, we were presented with a draft resolution which has been adopted by, in some form or another, if not literally, by Randolph County, Webster County. And Mr. Cooper, at that time, November 8th, did you say Pendleton County was considering it? Or?
They're considering, Tucker County is considering, I
Still
got
on
a
the table
favorable
with them?
response from both of those, but I don't have anything in writing as yet.
Okay. I had some concerns about the resolution as presented to us at the last meeting. We talked about that quite a bit. I felt it didn't do enough to express that what we were talking, the West Virginia Open Trails Association was talking about was only access to existing forest roads, not access to forest lands in general.
I don't want them on hiking trails or equestrian trails or anything like that.
And I also felt that it didn't do enough to include other stakeholders into the process with the Forest Service. So what I said I would do is that I would try my hand at a draft resolution and prepare that for tonight, and I have one ready to share with you, to share with all of us. So it does include language more toward including stakeholders and.
I'm sorry, what are stakeholders? I'm not clarified on that.
Stakeholders are other parties that are interested in this issue, that are concerned about it, or either for it or against it, that want to be part of the public process. Environmental groups, Sierra Club, Highland Conservancy, for example, may have some, and well, they do have some concerns about it. There may be other groups that would like to see this as well, that could be brought to the table to discuss this. But as the resolution was presented to us on November 8th, the only groups mentioned were the West Virginia Open Trails Association and the Forest Service, and the county commissions that have signed up. So I took some of the language from the old resolution and wrote some language that expressed the concerns I could think of that I recalled from the meeting, and we'll just give a crack at this and see how it goes. I have it on my computer. We can open it up and draft it if we feel like we can reach something that we can pass. Whereas the Pocahontas County Commission has been approached by the West Virginia Open Trails Association, WVOTA, to request that the National Forest Service allow access to existing open Forest Service roads in the Monongahela National Forest to all-terrain vehicles. And whereas the Pocahontas County Commission acknowledges the wish of many people to enjoy the beautiful splendor of our mountains by use of ATVs. And whereas the Pocahontas County Commission recognizes the important role the Monongahela National Forest plays in our economy and quality of life. And it's pretty long, I apologize in advance. Whereas the Pocahontas County Commission envisions that ATV access on existing opened Monongahela National Forest Service roads could be a boost to Pocahontas County's tourism economy. And whereas the Pocahontas County Commission understands that WVOTA is neither advocating nor requesting ATV access to national forest land other than existing open Forest Service roads within the Monongahela National Forest. And whereas the Pocahontas County Commission recognizes the importance of including all stakeholders, such as but not limited to law enforcement offices and environmental groups, in the process of working with the National Forest Service toward realizing access for all-terrain vehicles on existing open Monongahela Forest Service roads, and that an effort such as this cannot and should not succeed without such collaboration. And whereas the Pocahontas County Commission acknowledges and agrees with the request by the National Forest Service of the Open Trails Association to include all stakeholders in the process of considering and evaluating all benefits and drawbacks of granting ATV access on existing open Forest Service roads. And whereas the Pocahontas County Commission recognizes the need for the National Forest Service to conduct an environmental impact assessment prior to granting ATV access on existing open Forest Service roads. And whereas the Pocahontas County Commission acknowledges the National Forest Service's decadal forest plan and understands that allowing ATV access to existing open Forest Service roads will require amending the forest plan appropriately. And whereas the Pocahontas County Commission recognizes that opening Forest Service roads to ATVs will place new demands upon county, state, and federal law enforcement offices, and that these demands will need to be addressed. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Pocahontas County Commission encourages the West Virginia Open Trails Association, the National Forest Service, and all stakeholders, including but not limited to county law enforcement, state law enforcement, federal law enforcement, the Sierra Club, and the Highlands Conservancy to work together to allow all-terrain vehicles access to existing open Forest Service roads. Dated 20th of November.
Sounds very good.
Thank you, and thanks for hanging with me through that. That's the draft. I'd like fellow commissioners to give some thoughts about it.
I'd like to start off with that.
Go ahead.
You are asking the commission to allow all-terrain vehicles access, yet in the document you are recognizing drawbacks, recognizing the need for environmental impact assessments prior to access, recognizing amending forest plans, recognizing additional demands and financial demands, which is what that would be, is all, because resources always boil down to finances. And also recognizing, in your opening remarks, that some of the stakeholders are not in favor of it. Yet you're saying that this commission wants to allow that to happen. So I find that is inconsistent at this point. I think for the commission to come to that support, it should be after these assessments rather than beforehand. So I have a difficulty with that. And when you're also, I mean, you're trying to make this a document in which you're saying, which quite appropriately, that all of these different points of view should work together to find a solution.
Right.
Yet you're concluding that the commission already supports this. And I think that that's premature.
Okay.
That would be my feelings. Also, I want to ask one other thing. Would it be inconsistent with the prior stand that the commission took about the national monument? And would there be any inconsistencies with that? And I think we need to address that also, so that the commission doesn't support one thing which is inconsistent with a prior stand that we took. And I don't know if I myself would want to think about that also before I voted on such a document.
Okay. I guess I'll address the last point you bring up. I don't see it as inconsistent, quite simply. Maybe it is, but I don't see it that way at this point. Yeah, the resolution's attempts to just embrace support for collaboration on reaching such a goal. I don't presume that such a goal can be reached necessarily. I don't presume that there are no conditions under which concerned environmental groups would agree with this, or to some degree or another.
Yeah, I think it's
I want to
odd.
open up the chance for them to work together and say the commission supports that. That's the intent of my resolution.
Yeah, I think it's odd that Monongahela Hill National Forest is the only one that really has not opened up access to ATV trails. And you know, the other national forests have done it without litigation from the Sierra Club and Wilderness Coalition.
Mr. Walker?
Well, the fifth one down,
Okay.
where it states that we're neither advocating nor requesting ATV access to national forest lands other than existing open Forest Service roads.
Okay.
I feel that we need to add into that just to clarify it a little bit more.
Okay.
And make sure I understand it right. 2 licensed vehicles at this time. Is that right?
To motor vehicles. Yeah,
Right.
They have a motor vehicle usage map that includes everything except for
Right, but
ATV.
that's a vehicle that's licensed to be on any state highway.
Right.
And I mean, I think it would be more clear if we just put that into that effect.
Okay. Now there haven't been no requests.
Because there is places people can use non-licensed vehicles on Forest Service roads to get into their camps and stuff.
Open Forest Service roads.
And that's not what y'all's wanting, is to go anywhere anybody can go. You're just wanting to go where a licensed public
Where a
person
motor
can go.
vehicle can go, right.
Okay, we may have the floor just a minute. Really, what we're after is just a simple resolution to move it to the next level, which would be a meeting with the National Forest personnel and the groups that's against it. I mean, we know there's people out there that's against the thing. But, you know, we're not after the commission to make a decision on. You guys can't,
Right.
if you don't want that right. You have
Well,
nothing to do with
I
that
think if
board.
we, I mean, my feeling is, if you was totally against this, and you read that, and you happen to know somebody that's using an old four-wheel drive Jeep to get into their camp, they're gonna say, well, yeah, they're gonna be riding four-wheelers on that road now too, you know, and it's behind a lock gate, for instance.
But all that needs to be clarified at a called meeting with the National Forest.
Well, I agree with it, but that's
That
not what we're
resolution that you
gonna
had
approve
there-
for y'all to support to them either, you know.
That resolution you had the last time was from your cohorts in Randolph County. I
Right.
gave you that just as a guide to see what they had said.
And I appreciate
So
it.
really, all we're asking for is a simple resolution to move it to the next level. We're not
Right.
asking to make a decision on anything.
I just typed in 4 licensed vehicles after existing open forest roads on number 5.
Right here.
Open forest roads 2.
There's certainly nothing wrong with the commission making resolutions and proclamation. When I was on that side of the table, probably 25 or 30 of them that I know of right off, we was always making proclamations or resolutions to something to get it to the next step, to not necessarily being for it or against it, but
I appreciate that.
but it's our job as citizens of Pocahontas County to come to the county commission, which is the first level, to get a little bit of support to move it to the next level, because without that, he's tried that before. Forest Service just turned him away because he's got no platform, nothing underneath him to build that up to that
Right.
level. So,
I
you know,
appreciate
that's what we're after. It's just
I agree with
a
that
simple
too.
resolution.
I mean, I'll personally say that I'm very concerned about this. I'm not sure if I like the idea or not.
Well, you're
But-
advocating it
But
then.
being on this side of the desk, I
Right.
feel in a
That's
sense
your
that
job
I
to do
have to
that.
find a proper balance between what I personally am comfortable with or even fear, and what what I perceive my job to be toward those groups who are asking us for some advocacy on this to allow this stakeholder process to go forward. So, you know, I have no idea what could come out of this at the end of the day. Maybe some kind of agreement will come forth that is nothing I ever imagined, that's going to be something which will allay my fears. Then I would feel that I've done my job to allow that to go forward. So I basically, John, I'm saying I agree with you that I see our job as to give it a chance to be discussed, to see what
right,
happens.
that's all we're asking.
I have plenty of concerns, but I'm going to just sort of hold them back.
Everybody's, you know, has the right to their own opinion, whether you agree with any subject or not. You know, there may be things going on here that I don't particularly agree with, but, you know, you guys are saddled with the responsibility of making decisions to move the county forward in anything, you know, and, you know, you're not really, if it was down to where you guys had to make a yes or no decision on the thing, that's different.
Yeah,
That's not what you guys are about.
We have no
and
power
not
to
what
You're
we're after.
advocating it, David. In the last paragraph, you're advocating it. You're saying the commission.
Well, let me go on
So
through and give
you're
you the rest of my points.
You're not really in agreement with Mr. Simmons.
Really, what I suggest to you is make it plain and simple like Randolph County did. They didn't go into detail, they didn't get involved, they didn't try to make a decision, just a plain resolution to move it on. That's all we're
I
asking.
think, you know, to have a resolution to ask for further discussion of an important topic which has pros and cons and could have benefits and could have detractions to it would be as far as I would be willing to go. But you're, in the last paragraph, you're saying to allow.
yes, I am.
Okay, so I think that's inconsistent with as far as I would want to go.
Okay.
You went that far with the National Monument, Dave.
Yeah,
You
that's
didn't have
why I
any
asked that.
assessments on it.
Mr. Walker, were you going to say something?
Well, when you get down to the bottom, it recognizes that the need for the National Forest Service to conduct an environmental impact assessment.
That's according to the letter
Prior.
from Clyde Thompson.
Well, that's not really our decision to make, you know. So to me,
That's really not a true statement. They've done an environmental impact statement for the land management plan. And there's nothing in either one of those documents that prohibits ATVs. It addresses motor vehicles. It does not distinguish between what types of motor vehicles.
yeah,
That
they just
paragraph
never
simply-
put it in their plan to accept the ATVs yet, right?
Where this Monongahela put it in is in the motor vehicle usage map. That restricts the ATVs. But that was not done with public support.
Mr. Thompson has said that an environmental impact study would have to be done. This paragraph simply acknowledges that statement.
That's what they're saying, but it's.